evening, my journey through the law has been circuitous at best, and probably best left for another time, really. It's online and so on. I can direct you to places you can see some of what went on. And you've already heard some amazing stories and journeys. So I'm going to depart from the script to do something slightly different. I'm going to deliver a law lecture on criminal law. We'll see if we can wrap it up in about 7 minutes. Using a well-known case law to go through this thing. And I'm not going to ignore the advice to give advice, because the advice I have will come out of that case. The case is well known in all the monotheistic religions. You've heard about it. So it won't be new to you. And the principles won't be new to you. But I want to use this case for 2 reasons. One, to invite us into an approach of undertaking our legal studies. And also an approach to our professions as lawyers. And if you're in the room tonight, doesn't matter where you are in the progression of your law degree or your law profession, you're lawyers already. You're students and scholars of the law. And so this story and this case gives us some basic principles and approaches. All right, let's look at criminal law. You all know already, right? Let's correct me if I'm wrong. I won't be. But there are 2 main areas of criminal law. There is procedural law and substantive law, correct? Good. And the elements of a crime, what are they? We have actus reus, mens rea, you all know it, you can sing it. And we have concurrence and causation, right? So as we go through this story, let us identify where they come up. And the reason I'm telling this story is to show you how simple law is, how easy it is, how accessible it is. And we must demystify this thing where they say, oh, it's so difficult, it's so hard, you have to wear a wig and a gown. It's nonsense. It's very accessible. And even before legal textbooks were written, this story was there. So let's read the story. The story is the well-known story of Cain and Abel. You've heard it. First murder case. Let us call it R.V. Cain. Now, what is the R usually in a criminal case? What does it represent, that R? The Queen. Why? But why R? Regina, or Rex, Regina, whatever you want. But we have Regina, no, you call it. Let's hope it's, European Union have an impact on that, but we'll come to that. We're still going to keep the R, because we're going to use the R now for righteousness, or justice, or righteous justice then. We know the story is Cain and Abel, right? But before reading the story, I would like to pay a tribute to the victim. Because often in these stories, the perpetrator takes over the whole column inches. And the victim is often forgotten. So let me go to an area in the story. I'm reading from 2 literature. Old Testament literature and New Testament literature. In the New Testament literature, we're going to find what is said of the victim. Let's go to Hebrews, and I'm going to pick it up. Chapter 11. Verse 4. By faith, Abel brought God a better offering than Cain did. By faith, he was commended as righteous. Thus we get the R. when God spoke well of his offerings. And by faith, Abel still speaks even though he's dead. Now, for those of you who remember the story, can you remember anything that Abel said? Can you remember a speech mark anywhere in that story where Abel uttered a word? You can't find it anywhere. Yet he still speaks. So I want to suggest that the speaking we're talking about is about a doing and an acting. And we're going to find out by his doing and acting, this was said of him. And often it's forgotten of the victims. And of all the deaths we hear about in our society sometimes, the crime is elevated over the victim. And if you want to think about, for example, Damilola Taylor, for example, amongst many who were murdered, and you say, enduring picture you have is a little youth running to the library. And you might imagine, what if he grew up under the influence of that home? And what he would have achieved and given to society. And what would happen with his progeny. And that's all wiped out. So we must bear in mind, as we read the story, the victim. Alright, we're going to pick it up now in Genesis 4 to read this case law. Adam made love to his wife Eve, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. She said, with the help of the Lord, I have brought forth a man. Later she gave birth to his brother Abel. You might say that part of the story is irrelevant, but none of it is. Why? Because the birth order is very important. The first child and the last child, some of you know the last child as the wash belly, have a psychology associated with them, which can be brought out into court in terms of how people were raised. First child, a lot of burden put on them, develop a psychological kind of state of mind where the youngest one is always getting away, literally murder. This is a murder tale. And you can use that as mitigating evidence often. So the first advice is don't just look at law as a black letter law and what I'm going to learn in the classroom, but expand your horizons so you have an interest in all things. Because it's not law that is going to get your client off in a criminal court. It is a story. Here is a story. So we know the birth order, Cain and Abel. Now, Abel kept flocks and Cain worked the soil. Very important. Very significant. They're both going to the agricultural science business. One of them working with animals and one of them working with plants. No big deal about that. It's not a question of whether plants are better or animals are better. We won't want to have a fight with carnivores and vegetarians here tonight. But in the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord, just some of the fruits. But Abel also brought an offering. Fat portions from some of the firstborn of the flock. This is very important. I don't know when in society fat came to mean something bad. Fat in my culture is always good. The fat portions, the best portions of the firstborn. And remember, when we're talking about Abel and it's by faith, Abel was better than Cain because he offered a better offering than Cain. It's not to say Cain didn't offer something good. It was just to say that good is not enough. A mediocre offering is not enough. So when a parent expects the best of their child, as Funky, I'm going to use you a lot in this example. I'm going to spend this money and invest in the education and so on. I want the best. I want the best. And if you do well, then everything will be good. Right? So we're setting it up. We don't even come. So first of all, we're going to come to substantive law, then procedural law. This is quick enough. 8 verses, soon finish. Right? The Lord looked with favor on Abel. He got a good mark, got excellence, distinction. And his offering. But on Cain, his offering did not look on with favor. Right? So it probably got a feel. Cain was very angry and his face was downcast. We're now moving into the territory of motive. Because you can see the motive developing, the jealousy. It's all available in criminal law. You're prosecuting something, you hope you find the motive. Then the Lord said to Cain, why are you so angry? Why are you so face so downcast? If you do what is right, you will be accepted. But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door and will desire to have you, and you must rule over it. A bit of rehabilitation coming in. Trying to rehabilitate the man before the crime happened. When this is somebody's face is cast down and downcast, that's trouble. That's trouble. If you look at some of our youngsters now, and you see that is the attitude and that's the face, that is an explosion about waiting to happen, and an intervention is needed and nothing happened, is going to be trouble. Cain said to his brother Abel, moving very quickly, we're still in substantive law, let us go to the field opportunity. You have to create opportunity. If there is no opportunity, no crime. If you're not in the country, you're at a football match, they can prove it, crime took place another place. No, you cannot even bring a case. While they were out in the field, Cain attacked his brother and killed him. We have mens rea and actus rea coming together. We have concurrence and causation right here. All of substantive law is finished. And yet they want us to tell us that criminal law hard. Straightforward. Now today, of course, we have more elements and we talk about similar fact evidence and you have to learn anything. But everything impinges on this. It is as simple and as straightforward as this. Because we're done with the substantive criminal law. Now we're moving into procedure. There is going to be a court hearing. Cain, by the way, never have anybody to represent him. You brilliant, illustrious lawyers weren't around at the time. So, effectively, he had to employ the pro se defense, which is, of course, you can represent yourself. And so let's pick it up. We're in court now. We have to assume that he I think he entered a not guilty plea. The plea hearing, you don't enter a not guilty. Because we move straight into the question of the prosecutor now, got to ask some questions. And it's a simple question, and you need to ask a question that you know the answer to, and that will wrap up the case. So the Lord said to Cain, the Lord is actually prosecutor and judge. He said, the Lord said to Cain, where is your brother Abel? You answer that question truthfully, case closed. You don't just lock up a man because you think the judge never know. They knew. All knowing. But you go through where the rule of law, you can't lock up a person without a trial. So you ask the question, and out of the question, you get this feistiness. I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper? This is the rank rudeness. I don't know which is a lie. Am I my brother's question? You're answering a question with a question. Am I my brother's question? Everybody know that he's a shady criminal. Right? And then we get this. And today we have to ask the question, are we our brother's keepers? And you see organizations like this and how we behave one to another is the evidence of are we our brothers and sisters keepers? Because it's very important. And they are brother, whether it's from the bloodlines or whatever. The Lord said, what have you done? Judgment. We're going straight, moving very quickly. What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out. That's the evidence being abused from the ground. No, and then that is the verdict, guilty. There is a right to appeal a verdict. Cain does not appeal. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opens its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops to you, and you will be a restless wanderer on the earth. That's the sentence. Out. That is the sentence, and Cain appeals the sentence. Cain said to the Lord, my punishment is more than I can bear. Today you're driving me out of the land. I'll be hidden from your presence. I'll be a restless wanderer on the earth. And whoever finds me will kill me. You're giving me a death sentence. It's too heavy for me to bear. And even Cain then represented himself as an excellent lawyer and won the appeal. The Lord said to him, all right, not so. Anyone who killed you will suffer vengeance 7 times over. Then the Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one who found him could kill him. That even gangsters today can't protect people like that. So it went from the appeal was successful. It was no longer a death sentence, it was a life sentence. And so here we have the whole composition of the law coming together in a very simple story, not even 12 verses yet. But the most significant part of the story, and this is where people stop. Just read one more verse. Cain went out of the presence of the Lord, lived in the land of Nod, went east of Eden, you know that. Right? And Cain, and then pick it up in verse 17, had a child, and then Cain built a city and named it after his son. Built a city. A convicted criminal. That crime can never be repeated again. It's the worst crime ever. Why? There's only 4 people on the planet. Cain killed one of them. 25% of the world's population murdered. Mass genocide on a scale we can never see again. And here's a man who came through the legal system, made an appeal, was successful in the appeal, was still punished, but went on to build a city. Now this is the advice coming out of this. Where you get a man who works in the field, develops skills to build a city. And ask yourself the question is, what was the profession of his father, Adam? Worked in the field as well. Yeah. Is he trying to please his father? Was he under the yoke and the pressure of doing what his father did? And just like how it is difficult to stand up to a Yoruba doctor dad and say, no, I will pursue the profession of my passion. If Cain had done that earlier and pursued his passion, which is building cities, tired of the garden. You've seen already covering him up an armament as well, build some house. And a city. And city planning take a lot of other skills that's not to do with crop farming. And often we are doing the will of our parents and the expectation of society, and we have to learn to broke out, as we say. Find your passion and pursue your passion. Very important. I put it to you that if Funke had followed, she could have probably passed med school, bright enough. But if she had pursued medicine, she'd have probably killed about 2 or 3 people already. And now we'll be talking about clinical negligence as opposed to running corporations. You see how dangerous it can be. And let us not consider the pattern because of course, I'm from Germany, I'm from the West Indies as well. Same structure, lawyer, doctor, engineer, you're nothing. Let us not continue this thing. Let us observe the passion of our young people and encourage them to do whatever that is. And also have the courage and the boldness, like Funke did, to, I mean, you don't have to be like a bold stand-up. Why are you doing anything? You're mad. You think you can talk? It's not about that. She's more clever. I'm going to do it, Dad. I'm going to do it. I might do it. I'll try it. You know, but whatever way, you know, keep them sweet. But make sure you're fulfilling your passion. So let me just close with the advice. This is what I believe is absolutely essential as you're approaching your schoolwork and so on. Love your subject. Fall in love with your subject. Whatever you're doing, love it so much. I've met couples who are together for such a long time, they stay together, they hate each other. People who hate each other can love each other, you can love your subject. Often people say they don't like property and equity and trust and so on. Find a way to find an approach to love every piece of your subject. Respect your client, your future client so much that you know your subject so well. And find a way to love it. You're not just putting up with it and learning it, for example. Fall in love with it. When you love it, you remember it. Respect your instructors. You're not going to like all of them, but love all of them. Respect them. You learn better when you tell yourself, this is an amazing person standing in front of you. And you can learn from instructors. And your instructors are also the people instructing you in your career. And of course, the next thing is, I'll just close with EYE. Many of us are pupils. Pupil, where is it? In the eye. Or you spell I. But the EYE, which means enjoy your education. Don't just endure it. You're going to do it for 3 years, then another 2, then another 2. You might as well enjoy, love it, and deliver it well. Thank you for listening to me this evening.